Shalom, shalom, family. Shalom. Welcome to another edition of Wisdom Corner with Nasik, Zurishaddai ben Yehudah. And he will be highlighting the Sidra that we have for the previous week, even the Sidra of Pinchas. I'm giving glory to the Most High King of the universe, the God of our ancient forefathers, the God of Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. Thanking the Creator for all things and everything, food, clothing, and shelter, knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. I pray that the Most High God will continue to be with us, protect us, and guide us. Without any further ado, I'll pass the mic over to Nasik. Nasik, how are you today?
Great, Baruch Hashem, and I'm doing great. You know, it's a blessing to be here, and opportunity, blessed opportunity to be able to share some hopefully some insights into the last week's Sidra. But I first give praise to Supreme Telling Universe, God, my forefathers, Abraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, and due respects to the TV channel sponsor, the Chief Prince area, and Chief Uzal and other chief men from D.C.B. You know, CHOKMAH, BINAH, as the acronym stands for, which is knowledge. Knowledge,
wisdom.
Yeah, knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. Mm-hmm. I had to think about it just a little bit because actually, no harm intended. It's just that it's just a similar acronym for the kabod. But the kabod stand for CHOKMAH, BINAH, and DAI. That's what the kabod stand for.
Okay.
So that's their acronym.
All right, that's good. That's good information. I think I heard that before. Somebody might have told me that.
So when they say the kabod, and that's the guys on Kingston.
Right.
That's actually the acronym for that.
Oh, okay.
So y'all, CHOKMAH and BINAH, and there's is CHOKMAH, BINAH DAI.
So we are Dakhabad.
No. Well, I just say D.C.B. I'm just saying. I just shared that.
No. It's interesting. It's good. It's good to.
Yeah, but the kabod, that's their acronym is for. Basically, wisdom. Understanding and knowledge. That's how they got it. Wisdom, understanding, knowledge. Kabod. CHOKMAH, BINAH, DAI.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you. You see, we learn something new. Class and family, we learn something new all the time, and it's good to be able to learn and to be able to understand certain things. So, what do you have for us this week, Nasik?
All right, well, I'm go. It's a continuation, actually, of last week's the Sidra before last week.
Right.
With Balak, because Pinchas coming on the scene. Then we know the children of Israel had already sinned. In the matter of Baal Peor, we survived the actual curse that Balaam really wanted to drop on us at that time, and it's a testimony that also that only the Creator allows blessings and allows curses, upon a people.
Right.
But what's interesting is that He gives individuals now, and I'm saying, and sometimes we might think about that. Though Balak realized that Balaam didn't have no real power to do what he wanted to do, that don't negate that he has power to do those things. And so I want to just just elaborate just a slight moment on that. Is that if you say those that bless you, talking about our father Abraham, they will be blessed, and those that curse you will be cursed. So that means that you do have the power of the spoken word to a degree.
Absolutely.
And so it's actually the protection of the Creator for us at that time.
Right.
So right. I really realized that Balaam do have a track record and do have skills, and individuals do have the power to curse an individual and has the power to bless an individual.
Right.
But ultimately, the Creator allows it to happen if it's warranted.
Okay.
All right. So that's why it would make no sense to tell Abraham, those that bless you will be blessed, and those that curse you will be cursed.
Right.
And that patriarchs each looking for a blessing from their father.
Okay.
All right. So I just figure out.
You just learned me something.
You know. So, and when they talk about the shadow of a king, they use an interesting term for the shadow of a king in last week's Sidra before, which is which is torah. All right, but now we focus on Pinchas because last we read that a man in Israel had passed on by, and after he passed on by, after the sin of Baal Peor, and a plague going on, and the people stand without the tent, and he passed by Moshe and Eleazar, the priest, and walked into his tent with this Midianite woman, and Pinchas went and stuck the man through his back, into his stomach. So I just like to read have you read just a little bit because it'll make it quicker if you do it.
Right.
From the beginning of that Sidra, which is Numbers the 25th chapter, the 10th verse.
Number the 25th chapter, the 10th verse.
11th verse.
11th verse.
Excuse me. Well, 10th, yes, 10th.
The 10th verse? All right.
Yes.
We're in the book of Numbers chapter 25, verse 10. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
And Yehudah spoke unto Moses, saying, Pinchas, the son of Eleazar, the son of Aharon the priest, have turned my wrath away from the children of Yisrael, and that he was very jealous for my sake among them, so that I consume not the children of Yisrael in my jealousy.
Already, I just want to focus on that just a moment. Now, you always wonder, did he actually took time to weigh this thing out and say what I should do? Because this man just passed through Moshe. He passed through the priest. And yet, at this particular time, he made a move with no due process into the man's tent and, took this man's life, without any questions, without any conversation, without any further investigation. And yet, this is not the ordinary guys most people brought out in the different teachers, that this is a top-notch prince of the tribe of Shimon. See, when you read about Korah and the 250 princes, men famous of the congregation, with Dathan and Abiram, they was princes that was renowned, but this guy is an elite prince of that particular tribe that Pinchas had slain. And and it come out in next week's Sidra, well, tomorrow's Sidra, I should say, right. A little bit more, which I leave for the other teachers, and then perhaps I'll be able to, contribute something later, the following week. But Pinchas himself now, the Creator telling Moses this, and you figure, why he didn't tell Pinchas this?
Right.
He didn't speak to Pinchas to say, go ahead and make that move.
Right.
And the move was made.
Right.
And people going to be in an uproar.
Right.
But then right after this move was made, which is right after that, and talk about the plague was stayed, and then it also spoke to Moses and concerning about Pinchas, and it gives his lineage, said, the son of Eleazar, the son of Aharon, the priest. Now, he could have said the son of Eleazar. That's right. Good enough. We know, that would have been enough to know where he's from. And he could have said Eleazar the priest. But he mentions Aharon as being the priest. Going back a few. And then he goes on and say that this plague, when it says, jealous for my sake among them, so that I consume not the children of Israel in my jealousy. So the 24,000 that died in the plague, that was meant for Israelites. Not a mixed multitude, but for Israelites. So and so the mixed multitude is not in that number.
Right.
And we know we had a bunch of them in there. We
Absolutely.
we start complaining about flesh and flesh because the mixed multitude start complaining about flesh. So
Okay.
so this plague was targeted only for Israelites,
Right.
not for a son of an Egyptian. If it was a son of an Egyptian still out amongst us, amongst the mixed multitude, not
Right.
if it was a Syrian amongst the mixed multitude, not
Right.
if it was a Samaritan amongst the mixed multitude. That
Right.
plague was specific for Israelites,
Right.
letting you know that we're under a particular obligation. Hence the word priest. If we came out of Egypt, we're supposed to be like a kingdom of priests. Not that everybody themselves going to be a priest, but a kingdom of priests. And then
Right.
you could finish that out a little bit.
Verse 12.
Well, yes.
Wherefore say, Behold, I give unto him my covenant of peace, and it shall be unto him and to his seed after him the covenant of an everlasting priesthood, because he was jealous for his God and made atonement for the children of Yisrael.
Okay. Now, all right. I just want to focus on that covenant. A lot of people focus on the covenant. He had two covenants. One of peace and one of the Kohanim. All right. So he had the priesthood as a covenant, and he had the peace as a covenant. First was priest, peace, and then it's the priesthood. And you say, okay, and start off saying he's the son of Eleazar, son of Harun, the priest.
Right.
So anybody that would be a descendant of Harun, Nadab, Abihu, Eleazar, and Ithamar should be a priest.
Mm-hmm.
But when we look and we assume this is 40 years down the line,
Right.
all right, 4 years down the line, and he's not pretty much a young man, that may perhaps, and this is just speculation pretty much, perhaps, but I'm gonna try to tie it in, that his priesthood and his priestship was a thing of questioning in the sense that he's born before the inauguration of his father.
Right.
And hence anybody born after the inauguration is duty bound to be priest.
Right.
So he would be part of, and if I could try to draw even a stronger premise, is that when they was doing the count for the firstborns of Israel, and when they was doing the numberings, and
Right.
they tried to say it was 273 firstborn Israelites that had no Levite to redeem them. So they had to pay 5 shekels of silver for their redemption. But when you do the count of the Levites, the Merarites, the Gershonites, from the month old and upward, as far as redemption for the children of Israel, you had 300, the number plus 300. So that means that you had basically 27 more people, Levites, that was needed for those people. And so one of the teachings and one of the commentaries is, and when you do the math, for those that want to go back over it, I'll just highlight that, is that them guys was firstborns themselves.
Right.
Amongst the Levites.
Right.
That 300 over.
Right.
And therefore they said it was only, I think, 22,000 Levites.
Right.
That could be, for the 22,273, which is a small number for 600,350, 550 men of war, which is pretty much a relatively small number, but in relatives, in relationship to that number, but it was actually 300 more. So one commentary is that Pinchas, being he was born before Harun and his father and his father's brothers was anointed and ordained as Kohanim for the nation of Israel under the Creator, that came into play for the children that's born after that ordination, after they did the 8 days and was already complete. So hence, when we look at it from that perspective, then we can see that the second covenant of the priesthood has some validity to them, because now it's not just going to be the priesthood, but the high priest, because Eleazar is older than Ithamar.
Right.
So now he going to be, out of his line, that's where the high priest will come from. Later on, through King Solomon time, it was, they used that from the line as a dope. Now let's look at the, also I'd like to point out another thing about the covenant of peace. You say a covenant of peace, and most people brought out, he don't have to worry about looking over his shoulder.
Right.
The Simeonites, because which is ironic is that Shimon and Levi slew a city together because of they considered it an illicit relationship with their sister Dinah.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, a Simeonite, was, and they said, and then Yaakov recognized that out of all the brothers, these two brothers are really close.
Right.
They moved together. They pretty much were real tight, and they had the same kind of kindred spirits. What is remarkable is that why didn't Moshe say anything when this prince man come through? Why haven't Eleazar said anything when this prince man come through? And one thing that's thrown out in reference to that is that Moses is married to a Midianite. So how dare you tell me about Midianite when you got children and married to a Midianite?
Oh wow!
So that might have been a thing. I don't know. I'm just throwing out hyperboles, guesses.
Right.
In that sense, because he married to a Midianite, got children by a Midianite, lived with a Midianite.
Right.
And yet, this guy coming
judge
with
me? You gonna judge me? It's like saying you gonna judge me.
That's not the first time he looked at being a judge in Egypt. The same thing. You need not only be the judge but the executioner too.
Right.
So now, the Kohen Eleazar, I don't know what he might do. He definitely in front of 10 in the morning, so evidently he might probably in the process of praying. But it seemed like, it wasn't a thing that could be missed. So I'm just throwing some scenarios out there because it's a real serious thing for a guy to be a vigilante. Right. And this is the only time in history God ever exonerated an individual. So now the covenant of peace is not that Shimon is not going to attack him, and not that other people going to say, man, you lucky the Creator says something, man, because we're about to ready to roll up on you. It was, it's more to it than that. What the real true peace is, could he live with himself?
Right.
For what he did. See, sometimes a guy may act zealous, act on impulse, act in a spirit. And the Creator said he didn't even think about himself. He said, he was jealous for me. He didn't even think about the nation.
Right.
So that means his jealousy was centered only on the Creator himself.
Right.
And very few people can have a jealousy and zeal, which is the same word pretty much in Hebrew. Zeal and jealousy is the same word. Being zealous like that and say, it's not about me at all. I'm not even thinking about me. I'm not even thinking about my family. I'm not even thinking about anything but this thing that's going against the Creator. And that's let you know, when the Creator speaks about on that behalf and the Creator tries the hard, that means that he ain't think about consequences. He didn't think about nightmares after this.
Right.
So Shimon won't attack me. The other brothers won't attack me. They won't be derive my name no further. But could I live with myself for what I did? So sometimes when you do a righteous act, a holy act, do you regret doing that holy act? Do you regret doing a righteous act? So therefore, for him to be a priest, he can't have no regrets for what he did. He can't have no repentance concerning how he could have handled it a different way.
Right.
That was the only way to handle that situation. So therefore, the Creator granted him peace and said, don't think about that subject anymore. And that's a subject and an area that no one else is prompt to imitate. A lot of people say, I'm going to be jealous for the Creator. You know, well, once you say, I am going to be jealous, you nominate yourself first with the pronoun I. But the Creator pointed it out. So that's, and also, and those that read, scrolls, every Shabbat, they would notice that in the scroll that the YAH and Shalom has the space between it. And it's the only letter in the scroll that has that space in the middle of it, which is showing that sometimes peace that be cured through violence, always has a bad stigma on it. Okay. So that's so those that for those that make Aliyah last week, it might look at some Tukums, you will see that the word Shalom, the YAH in there has what they would say Bob, say YAH, has that space in between the letter, going down. And they already give the name, and they give the name of the individual, Zimri, the son of Shalu, and then the daughter Cosby, who was a princess. So that means they sent their best out. Moses had a daughter of a priest. He had a prince. There's other commentaries on it, but I'll just let that one go for now in reference to the that area. All right, so we're gonna skip on down to
chapter 26.
Yeah, 26. We're gonna skip down to 26. 26. You can start off there. Beginning, first verse.
Numbers chapter 26, verse 1. And it came to pass after the plague that Yehudah spoke unto Moshe and unto Eleazar the son of Aharon the priest, saying, take the sum of all the congregation of the children of Yisrael from 20 years old and upward by their fathers' houses, all that are able to go forth to war in Yisrael. And Moses and Eleazar the priest with them in the plains of Moab by the Jordan of Jericho, saying, take the sum of the people from 20 years old and upward, as Yehudah commanded Moshe and the children of Yisrael that came forth out of the land of Misraim.
Okay, all right, we're going to stop right there. All right, we started with Reuben there and stuff like that. And, all right, but when we get the account, we're going to skip down to the 9th verse. Let's do the 9th verse. Let's read that.
Verse 9. Numbers chapter 26, verse 9. And the sons of Eliab, Nemuel, and Datan, and Abiram. These are the Datan and Abiram, the elect of the congregation, who strove against Moshe and against Aharon in the company of Korach, when they strove against Yehudah.
Right. And so, these people been long dead. Right. But yet it's a census being taken. But sometimes your history become a track record. All right. When it talks about the prince of Shimon that was slain in the area of the descent of the Baal Peor and dealing with the Midianite woman, you notice it stopped at the name. It goes straight to the prince and talk about his father, and it goes straight to his tribe, Shimon. Right. Whereas with Pinchas, it stopped at the laudable individual, which is Aharon. The priest, the Hakohen. So it's like sending a subtle message about Shimon's maybe pretty much attitude,
Right.
and anger. And both of them had anger, but one anger, and one of the things I got to say when they said curse, when Yaakov said, "Cursed be their anger and their blessing" in Genesis the 49th chapter. But he said, let them be scattered in Israel.
Right.
Both tribes are scattered through Israel, and since both tribes are scattered through Israel, if it's something that you say, "Cursed be their anger," why share it amongst the rest of the tribes? Because that would be a thing. Well, if it's bad for them, why would I want it?
Right.
Why would I need it? Why are you putting that over here?
Right.
You said you said cursed be their anger.
Right.
So now you can put some of them guys over here, some of these guys over here, and you notice both tribes are scattered within Shimon's inheritance. If you get to later on, I'm going a little ahead of myself. It's scattered amongst the tribes of Yehudah, and Levi is scattered throughout all the tribes.
Right.
But when Yaakov said, "Cursed be their anger," and we see anger in both cases, one with Dinah, and also we know also with Joseph, they didn't like him, and Shimon was the one that was held hostage down in Egypt.
Right.
So when we look at those areas there, we say, okay, why would Yaakov say scatter them? Because sometimes we need that side. We need to get angry on some issues, but enough where we can control that anger. So that's why I said scattered amongst the tribes of Israel, because when you talk about righteous indignation, sometimes you got to stand up. So now when we go over to the census, this 40 years later, it's right after a great catastrophe, and we're just about ready to go into the land. But one of the things I like to bring out here in the census, and just to highlight, is that they go through the tribes and letting you know. So a lot of people always say, say for instance, the people in America, black folks per se, and everybody got this thing about, I want to check my DNA, I want to check my roots and see where my family come from, where they at, and all that kind of stuff, who I belong at, where I belong at. So what we have here is that most black folks say, you had some white folks in you somewhere in the line, because the slave master was going inside here, the slave master was going inside there. And we know that some of the sitting presidents had babies by, slaves. We even know that the great abolitionist, Frederick Douglass, his father was, a slave master. His mother was black. So by going through the census here about the families and their houses and giving names, even though some of these guys are dead, and they mentioned that the sons of Korah have not yet had even died, let you know that these and the creator name go behind all these census, let you know that he know for sure that these are pedigree Israelites, not mixed Israelites. We had a mixed multitude within our camp, but the mixed multitude stayed with the mixed multitude, but you had Israelites that was pure blooded Israelites in this count. All right, we go skip on down to 64th verse. I want to bring into about the division of the land.
You said the 12th verse?
Oh, 64.
64. Verse 64 of Numbers chapter 26. It reads, "But among these there was not a man of them that were numbered by Moses and Aaron the priest, who numbered the children of Yisrael in the wilderness of Sinai. For Yehodah has said of them, they shall surely die in the wilderness, and there was not left a man of them, save Caleb the son of Yefuneh and Yehoshua the son of Nun."
All right, now, what's so important about that? The Creator, they had a lot of people dying in a death march for 40 years. And some was up in age, some was not up in age. But when we look at that, imagine Moshe, 120, Aharon, 123. Now, unless you was a Levite with that same age bracket, most of the oldest guys, as far as the majority of the people, Joshua was about basically 83 at this time, and Caleb about 80, give or take. So that's a lot of years difference. We know how it is for some of us that say, well, man, I'm 20 years older than you. And then, your kids might say, and if you're in a 30-year bracket of age, and they might be in a 10-year bracket, and they might say, Abba, how was it back in ancient times when you went to school? And you say ancient times, but to them, you look out of focus pretty much, and it'd be hard for you to identify with their mindset. But that leads to another episode. But we're gonna move on and go to the next chapter, the 27th chapter of Numbers, and bring out another highlight in this Sidra.
Numbers chapter 27.
Yeah, start from the top.
You mean 28? We are on 27, right?
No, 27. We just finished
27.
Yes, 27:1.
All right, hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Then drew near the daughters of Salafchad, the son of Heper, the son of Gilead, the son of Machir, the son of Manasseh, of the families of Manasseh, the son of Joseph. And these are the names of his daughters: Machlah, Noah, Hoglah, Milcah, and Tirzah. They stood before Moshe and before Eleazar the priest and before the princes and all the congregation at the door of the tent of meeting, saying, Our father died in the wilderness, and he was not among the company of them that gathered themselves together against Yehoah in the company of Korach, but he died in his own sin. He had no sons. Why should the name of our father be done away from among his family, because he had no son? Give unto us a possession among the brethren of our father. And Moses brought all right.
Now, this in America, this don't seem too novel, but it's novel in antiquity and in the book. See, a lot of people think in the scriptures, the way, and especially even when they allow polygamy, I mean, with more than one wife, stuff like that, they figure we looked at women as less than nothing. Less than nothing. But there's a lot of respect for women in ancient time, because these 5 women, they was around for, well, at least we know. All right, we know right then and there that they've been around for almost 40 years, just from them citing that incident with Korah. So we know they had to be before that. And women's wasn't under the death penalty. It was the men from 20 years old and up were able to go forth to war that was in that count. So that means that if you was a Levite, if you was a female, you wasn't part of that death march where you'd be slated to die in the wilderness. So now, to say to Moshe as a judge, our father wasn't involved with the sins of Korah when they stood up against you. Now, that would make like I'm trying to let you know that he wasn't against you, so you should be able to deal with us and judge us favorably. That would imply that. So it didn't say, a matter of fact, we're gonna read the next verse. It'll explain it even better if I make my point. 5th verse. You still there, Chief? Did I lose you?
No, I'm here. Oh. I have muted the mic for a second.
All right, 5th verse. All
right. Verse 5. And Moshe brought their cause before Yehoah. And Yehoah spoke unto Moshe, saying, The daughters of Salafchad speak right. Thou shalt surely give them a possession of an inheritance among their father's brethren. and thou shalt cause the inheritance of their father to pass unto them.
All right, hold right there. All right. All right. I just want to bring out something. Moses didn't say he didn't know the answer. He didn't say, I can't give an answer. He said, I'm going to bring this to the Creator. So you got some commentaries say Moses, since made the statement that any difficult things you bring to me. So, they say, well, he didn't know how to answer that question. They say, it was a novel thing. So he didn't have to answer that question. But then I always like to say, when Aharon didn't eat the sin offering at the day of the inauguration, when his two sons, Nadab and Abihu, was killed with fire from the Lord, when Aharon gave his explanation why he didn't eat it, Moshe was satisfied. So what I'm driving at is that because, sometimes you might read the commentaries that he didn't know the answer, that's why he brought it to the Creator. It didn't say that he didn't know the answer. He brought it there, but it'd be show an impartiality. Because the first thing they said was, our father was part of that people that stood up against you in the past. So that would make it up. Well, are you trying to say because they weren't part of that group that I got to show you a little bit of favoritism? When you're supposed to judge the rich and the poor alike. There's no impartial. There's no partiality in when it comes to justice. And who could be more impartial than the Creator? So he brought the cause to the Creator, and the Creator said, "They speak right.
Right.
They speak right." And when the Creator say you said something right, then that's saying a lot. All right, let's go a little
Prince,
bit more.
can I just ask you a quick question?
No problem.
All right, so in studying the daughters of Salafkad, right?
Right.
And thinking about, sometimes we think about what do you call that? Who has custody or who gets custody of children, right? And if you think about the daughters of Salafkad and just inheritance as a whole, wouldn't that automatically leave custody in the hands of the father who is the owner of the land, or who would be the inheritor of the land?
Yes, and also as we read a little bit further, it's going to explain it even further. Because even in the Levitical marriage, what we call Levitical marriage, when two brothers dwell together, and one have a wife, and he died and have no children, and the other brother supposed to go into that wife and raise up seed in his brother's name, so that his name is not wiped out of Israel. And it's all in purpose. And the reason for that is that it's about inheritance. Now, one of the things you say, well, why is the women's going to have a new law written in the book? Because this is not written down. Moses bringing this to the Creator for the first time. And now this law is going to be written in the book because of these 5 women. There's a lot of commentaries on it. Because when we think about inheritance, how do one get an inheritance? One usually get an inheritance because somebody died.
Someone died, right.
That's how you get an inheritance.
Right.
You related to the individual and they died.
Right.
So some comments would say, hey, since, Kawa first to eat the fruit and stuff like that there, and then pass it on, they brought death into the world. That's either here or there. You can take that or leave it. But basically, we're going to be talking about inheritance and property and land, and which I will focus on a little bit more in depth now and next time, and when it gets to next week's Sidra. But it's usually the women never had a problem not going into the land. It was the men that had a problem of not going into the land. But when it comes to inheritance, the only way you could inherit is somebody left. They died. All right. So now we're going to see what other laws are right in this area. This is a very interesting portion right quick. Okay.
Okay. So it says here, verse 8, and thou shalt speak unto the children of Yisrael, saying, if a man die and have no son, then ye shall cause his inheritance to pass on to his daughter. And if he have no daughter, then ye shall give his inheritance unto his brethren. And if he have no brethren, then ye shall give his inheritance unto his father's brethren. And if his father have no brethren, then ye shall give his inheritance unto his kinsmen that is next to him of his family, and he shall possess it. And it shall be unto the children of Israel a statute of judgment, as Yehudah commanded Moses.
Right. That means that this is written into law now. A new law written into law at the request of 5 women. You know, and the Creator said this is, and it said they spoke right, and it gave parameters. But what's I'd like to bring out one point here, because I know some books might comment and say that their father was the one that picked up sticks on the Shabbat, and that's how he died. And at that particular time, being he's out the tribe of Manasseh and stuff like that there, and he wasn't a Levite, he had to do something to cause him to die. But we know that in that episode, when they talk about they found the man gathering sticks on the Shabbat, his name is not mentioned. So what they do is normally comment on what Rabbi Akiva, who was supposed to be one of the scholars and sages of this what they consider oral traditional books, which is Talmudic literature, and he identifies the guy as their father. But the tragedy of doing that is that if you're wrong about who it is, since the book don't say who it was that gathered the sticks on the Shabbat, you actually condemn an innocent man. So a lot of times we try to stick as much to what is written in the book of the Tanakh as possible. Some things, you have to kind of figure out and understand in life, but those things, when it comes to defamation of character, we got to have evidence. So all we know is that his daughter say he died in his own sin. They never identified the sin, and we don't know who the guy was that picked up sticks on the Shabbat. So I like to leave it like that. So we're gonna skip on down to the 51st. No, matter of fact, let's go to the 55th verse in the same chapter. 55th verse, very quick.
55th verse in chapter 27.
It's 26.
26th verse. 27 doesn't have 20.
Oh no, I'm sorry. I went too fast. Okay, now we go 20. Give me verse 13.
Verse 13.
Yes, sir.
Numbers chapter 27, verse 13. When thou hast seen it, thou also shalt be gathered unto thy people, as Aaron thy brother was gathered, because you rebelled against my commandment in the wilderness of Zin, in the strife of the congregation to sanctify me at the waters before their eyes. These are the waters of Meribah, Kadesh, in the wilderness of Zin.
All right. Now, and let you know right then and there, Moses was supposed to go ahead and behold the whole Holy Land, coming from the 12th verse of that particular portion, and die. Now, can you imagine you getting people on death row have a rough time adjusting to death, but you healthy, good shape, fit as a fiddle, mind intact, and if you're able to walk up a mountain, you in good shape. You nobody carrying you up, and your eyesight got to be good. And say, when you go up there, you're gonna die. Lay down and die. And what's so unique he didn't say bring anybody with you. They was at, I'm sure that I'm sure they was at Miriam's funeral, and we know for a fact that Moshe and Eleazar was at Aharon's funeral. But now Moshe gonna have to die after his time is up, and the Creator himself will have to be the one that buries him. So that's a on one hand, that's a blessing that you actually gonna be buried by the Creator. And on the other hand, you haven't fulfilled what you wanted to fulfill in life for yourself personally. All right, we're gonna skip on down to oh wow, let me move it just a little bit quicker. All right. So rebel, and usually it says rebel against the created mouth, because the Creator told him what to say, and he make it clear, you rebel against my mouth. All right, so we're gonna go skip on down to the 15. Let me see over here. Okay, yeah. 15 verse. Let's go 15 verse. Then we'll skip 15 verse. And Moses spoke unto the Lord, saying,
Verse 15.
Yes.
Chapter 27. And Moshe spoke unto Yehodah, saying, let Yehodah, the God of the spirits of all flesh, set a man over the congregation, who may go out before them, and who may come in before them, and who may lead them out, and who may bring them in, that the congregation of Yehodah be not as a sheep which have no shepherd. And Yehodah said unto Moshe, take thee Yehoshua the son of Nun, a man in whom is spirit, and lay thy hand upon him, and set him before Eleazar the priest, and before all the congregation, and give him a charge in their sight.
Right. So those that go to rabbinic school, that's what they do, part of the graduation. Whoever ordaining you to be a rabbi or anything like that, they put their hands on it. Most assessors, they put your hands on, and say thus and thus and thus and thus is the case. Well, this way they take this from. But one of the things is that Moses asked for somebody to appoint a leader. His brother position is passed on to his son, but who Moses' position will be passed on to. And a lot of times, you figure, hey, my sons haven't gotten any trouble, right, as of yet, but it's not there part of their life. And you can understand why Moshe's son wouldn't get a position like that. And one of the things I would say why Moshe's son would not get a position like Gershon or Eleazar, a position of that magnitude amongst the children of Israel, is simply because they haven't experienced the Egyptian saga. So since they haven't experienced the Egyptian saga, how could you identify with our plight when you never was in the fight like that? So it's almost like certain people talk about racism, and never know in their family anything they had experienced it. So how can you speak hard on racism if you never was on the other end where racism was shown against you? So with Moses, he asked for an appointment for his position, and yet he didn't recognize his servant Yehoshua, who had a different spirit had a man of spirit. He didn't view him as his replacement, which is a kind of ironic in a sense. Though he was happy because he put both hands on him, that when God said just put your hand on him, he put both hands on him in the plural. So sometimes a teacher, an elder, one of the great things, I like being on the sideline. I might chime in once in a while on some maybe a darash or two and sit. But my biggest joy is when I see young guys up there expounding in Torah and living it. So they're not just talking the talk, they're walking the walk. So that's one of my great excitements and stuff like that, because I say, well, it's hope for the future for our nation, where we know that Israel going to win in the end. We know that we're going to all go home in the end. but you always like to figure out who's gonna be in the number at the end. And so when you see the transition of other people, the young groups coming up and filling the shoes and replacing, people in certain roles, then that's a great thing. It's not a thing to be ashamed of. It's not a thing where actually, I've been my experience that some elders stay in a position too long. That's been my experience. That they've been in a position too long in too many areas. And for those that don't know, I used to, I teach martial arts when I was in New York. And I used to, when I come to the class, I always tell people that, don't y'all watch them Chinese movies? All these different movies and martial arts movies. I said, when y'all gonna let me come out on the floor and y'all bring a chair out where I could sit down and call the moves from the chair instead of me out there outside demonstrating the moves with you. So if I gotta demonstrate the moves with you, y'all gonna have problems. So I'm looking for people to excel and take over leadership. And every Israelite congregation should always want that the next generation could excel even better than themselves, because you get the merit for that. And it's a blessing. And so Moshe want to make sure that the people he led, though he know he can't go any further, that they still have a shepherd that could guide them. But the difference is that he got to stand before Eleazar, the priest. So even though he won't have that same level of esteem as Moshe had. All right, one more thing I'm gonna go with, and then that'll be it on this here. All right. I omitted one spot. The 15th. I'm just gonna finish here for today. And it said the 15th verse. I'm just going back it up just a little bit.
Verse 15.
Yeah, verse 15.
And Moshe spoke unto Yehodah, saying, let Yehodah, the God of the spirits of all flesh, set a man over the congregation.
Oh, right there. That's all I want to bring out.
Right.
15th verse. It's I almost missed it running, kind of fast. This is the only time you read it where Moshe spoke, and then the Creator's name is mentioned after that. Throughout the whole five books, it's usually the Creator speaking to Moses. Why the bed, Adonai, but here it is, why the bed Moshe. So, and it's one of the few times, it's the only time, matter of fact, that he comes before, and it says, and he spoke unto the Creator. But when we look at it, in the Hebrew, in the 15th verse, it said, why the bear Moshe El Adonai Lemor. And that phrase there, that one little line there in the Hebrew, it's the only time you'll find that in the whole scriptures. And in next week's Sidra is actually another one line that's really, really unique that set Moshe a little different. And we know that we talk about the inheritance in this particular chapter. We talk about the holy days that's coming up in the sacrifice that's accompanying the holy days in the chapter. So that's coming up in this particular chapter. But I want the people to consider that we also coming into the Rosh Chodesh, with the month of and also there's Rosh Chodesh is the month and the date that Aharon himself died, and then Tisha B'Av, which is coming up soon. That's also the actual destruction of the temple. In the book of Jeremiah, it's actually say the 10th of Av, which is the harmonized. They say it started on the 9th. This commentary says it started on the fire. The Babylonians burnt the temple on the 9th, and it was destroyed on the actually on the 10th, completely burnt down on the 10th, but the fire started on the 9th. So that's what, and also the second time it's destroyed too. So whereas America has, and which I probably, if I remember, speak on it maybe next week, because the fast come up next Thursday, that in America you have the 9/11, the two twin towers being destroyed, 9/11. Well, for us, if we count using what they call a civil calendar, and you look at Ethanim as being the first month, then Av will be the 11th month. So we have 11 and 9. Where theirs was about business, ours was about holiness. They had 2 towers destroyed on at one time. We had 2 towers on the same day, but different times. But 400 some odd years apart, basically. I hope you got something out of what I was saying, and any mistakes been my own. Don't charge it to be D.C.B, charge it to be. And
I have a question before you leave, right?
Okay.
I know I know you watched the news, and did you see the whole thing with Nick Cannon, where
Correct.
he made the statement about we the true Hebrews? How can I be anti-Semitic if I'm Semitic? What is your take on that?
Well, one, I heard this afternoon that he had supposed to apologize, and they said he wasn't sincere. Now, I wouldn't apologize because he's correct on that. And see what happens, we take a term that started in Nazi Germany, anti-Semitic. It started in Nazi Germany. And when it started in Nazi Germany, this guy, I forget his name, the last name was Maul. Me and my son was talking about this early this morning.
Yeah, he started it. He used to do propaganda.
Right. Exactly. I mentioned that as well this morning.
Right.
And it was famous during World War II, a lot of propaganda.
Right.
And the thing was, he was talking about the Aryan race, the Germans marrying the Jewish community over there.
Right.
And so what happened is European Jewry tend to take that phrase and apply it to anything that's Jewish. I mean, basically specifying the anti-Semitic. But you got so many everybody on the planet is either you're Hamitic, Yaphetic, or Shemitic. So now you got a bunch of nations under Yaphetic group. Everybody in the Yaphetic group don't get along, and everybody in the Hamitic group don't get along, and everybody in the Shemitic group don't get along. But yet it's hard for one person to be anti a whole particular lineage, because and they're taking the word out of context. So when you take the word out of context and saying and give it a semantical meaning, because it changed now from what the original guy meant to be, because they called it, because the Aryans actually was the Indians in India.
Right.
That was a group of people there, but and the Swasis is actually from India.
Right.
But so when people take things and give it new meanings and then blanket it across, that's not the same as being the truth of the matter. And what we talk about is true. So when they say anti-Semitic remark, I mean, one, I understand you got freedom of speech, but you're responsible for what you say. But he said something, I didn't hear the exact tape. I just read what he posted and said he made an anti-Semitic remark. And I read his comments about true Hebrews and this and that and the other. We the true Hebrews. All right, if that's a truth, then you deal with the truth. If you don't like the truth, then that's a problem. But we should never be apologetic by speaking truth. We should be apologetic when we're wrong. And when it started from over there and got a new meaning, then it's, we can't help that you got a new meaning on it. We know what it meant originally.
He said a few things. He said some things about he was speaking about the Rothschilds and the control of the money, and he's spoken to a lot of things. The less melanin you have, the less compassionate you are. Compassionate you are.
I'm not going to go into all that. I'm not going to go into all that.
No, but I think they bunched everything up together.
Right.
They bunched everything up together and they call his statements anti-Semitic. But like you said, if you separate the facts, right, the same guy,
right, not only married a few Jewish women, that come up with that term with the
Right,
anti-Semitic.
right, he did.
But
Right.
he also was fired by Jewish fired from by Jewish guys.
So he had animosity towards
Right.
Jews because
So
of that. Right.
he was fired. You know, what I mean, you know, as I think in the banking or financial system or whatever it was, because they dealt with the banking system. So he had hostility, and since they had that Holocaust, as they put it over in Germany,
right,
you know, with the persecution and stuff like that against Jewish people, against gypsies, homosexuals, and all that kind of stuff. All right, that that he come up with that propaganda, and it's stuck, but it's not accurate propaganda, because one of the things is like when Mordecai called himself a Jew, a Yehudi,
right,
and in the book of Esther, we know automatically he's a Benjamite.
Right.
His lineage is given. Esther herself referred to herself as a Yehudi, Yehudit. You know what I mean? But lineage is, but she's a Benjamite.
Right.
When we everybody should fall humble before the face of history, because when you get accurate proof in history, you can't change it. So you either embrace it or discard it, but don't say, it didn't exist if it's evident that it exists and where it started from. So we got to go to the root of the matter as opposed to a generic thing.
Right.
Because for our people, Negroes, capital N later, then they talk about colored folks, then they start talking about Afro Americans and all that. So we kept changing names of so-called black folks in America. All right, so now what name it really is, because they went from the big N words, to all kind of nicknames and stuff like that there. But what name are we using today? But for us, how much melanin you got in and all that, there's only two types of people in the world. Either you're good or you're bad. That's it. You're godly or ungodly. So that's how I like to deal with people. Until they show me something different, I try to look for the godliness in every individual.
Right. It says here, in 1879, the German journalist Wilhelm Marr.
Marr means bitter, by the way. Marr means bitter in Hebrew.
Right. Began the politicization of the term by speaking of a struggle between Jews and Germans in a pamphlet called Der Zegzum, Ziege des Garmanumtum über das Judentum, right?
The way to German.
Well, it says
Deutsch.
It says the way to victory of Germanism over Judaism. He accused the Jews of being liberals, of people without roots who had Judaized Germans beyond salvation. In 1879, Marr's adherents founded the League for Anti-Semitism, which concerned itself entirely with anti-Jewish political action. Objections to the usage of the term, such as the obsolete nature of the term Semitic as a racial term and the exclusion of discrimination against non-Jewish Semitic peoples, have been raised since at least the 1930s.
Hence your origin.
Yeah, because Arabs are Semitic people too.
Arabs, Syrians, and Assyrians.
And Assyrians, right.
And the Persians.
And the Persians.
What you call Iranians today.
Right. All Semitic people. So, and the children of Israel, without a doubt. So, and then when you go deeper into the mixing, because although the Most High God told us not to mix with some of those Canaanite nations, we absolutely mix with the children of Ham. Will you agree with that?
We definitely did that, especially on the run. But it was. But the thing is this: we was told scripturally. Right. Now I know rabbinically they add a couple other people involved. They include the Moabites and the Ammonites, but But then for some reason they dropped it because Ruth, was a Moabite,
Right.
in the book of Ruth. But that it was 7 nations that we were supposed to conquer. We weren't supposed to make no covenants, no leagues, or anything with them. So out those 7 nations, the Perizzites, the Girgashites, the Hittites, the Hivites, the Canaanites, those 7 nations that we were supposed to conquer.
Right.
Those the only nations that we was actually told in the book, and the Tanakh, not to and to marry with,
And to marry.
and a reason given, and we was told also never to despise the Egyptian because we was a stranger in his land, and they wanted to kill us and enslave us. Not aboard, an Edomite because he's your brother and he wanted to bring the sword out against us.
Right.
So the thing is that is those nations, that and next week's Sidra, we have some a few skeletons amongst our own things in next week's Sidra as well. Right. All right, so but I'll let the brothers bring out a few points that they're gonna bring, right. In the time they're allotted to them. But we're not we're not told that we couldn't marry anybody else on the planet. Now, if you hold to a rabbinic thing, you might add a couple more involved in there. But as far as nations go, now you got certain near kin prohibited marriages, illicit marriages. That's a whole nother area. But as far as nationalistic, different peoples, only 7 people Israel was not supposed to. 7 groups of people in Israel were not supposed to. So that means Ethiopians is a Hamitic. You couldn't marry Ethiopian.
Right.
All right. You couldn't marry an Egyptian. They're Hamitic. Right. All
right. But did we marry Canaanites even after we were told not to marry?
Oh, we got that. We got that in the book. We got that in the book. As a matter of fact, you read about and it's always a controversy about Simeon being married to a Canaanite woman.
What about Tamar? Was she a Hittite?
No, we're not. No, Tamar. We don't know who she are. Commentaries and it's comments on it that she's a daughter of Shem.
Right, I heard that commentary, but we can't prove that, right?
We can't prove that, but we know Yehudah himself married a Canaanite woman.
Right.
The thing was
one of the daughters of Het, right?
But the thing was that we knew her father name, we never knew the wife name of Yehudah.
Right.
And the daughter Abdullah, I think was his name.
Right.
Off the top of my head. So we knew the father name, but we never knew the wife name. Right. But what's interesting is that all this is before, the law is given about what we're not supposed to do.
Right, what we're not supposed to do.
So I just want to bring that out, where in a sense where Esau was not told not to marry them. Isaac was prohibited to marry by his father, but Esau was never told.
Right.
And since he followed his father's footsteps, he got married at the same age as father did, 40. But that's another story.
So in European Jewry, why is it that they overlook those points? Because my point, and I always post this question: if we married into the Hamitic line, right? As we see, that's replete throughout the Tanakh. We married into the Hamitic line. Their dictionaries say that Ham are the Hamitic nations are the Africans, basically dark people, right? So don't they look at their books or at the Tanakh and see that if you married into black people or dark-skinned people, right, that somehow the offspring is going to come out, even if you believe that Israel was a clear-skinned people, don't they understand that the melanin is going to take over and that Israel is not going to look like them? How do they explain that?
Well, the strongest gene's going to win all the time.
Right.
All right. And sometimes it might be a throwback.
Right.
All right. we know
And
that.
this is just hypothetically speaking, because we know the children of Israel are people of color.
But in actuality, from black, matter of fact, and I think in the arts class, I think they say black is the presence of all colors, and white is the absence of color.
Right.
You could get everything from the black people. We used to have a saying in BINAH King. We went from a Zach black to a sound brown, to a mellow yellow,
Yeah.
to a light that's so bright it look almost white, but not so quite.
Not quite, yeah.
All right. So that's what used to be a saying in BINAH King years ago. So and with my own children, I got some dark skinned ones, right. and they always because their mama is dark, and then I got some light skinned ones, and they always because their mama is light.
Right.
You know what I mean? But so you can have that in one family.
Okay. Thank you, Nasik. I know you probably got to run, so I appreciate you giving us this time. The class is 96 deep right now. There's 96 people online listening right now, so just give your shout out to them. And
I appreciate everybody listening. I hope I was somewhat informative, or if not, well, motivational enough for you to research behind me.
So your crowd, the crowd is growing week by week. So thank you again, Nasik, for your information and for your diligence. And also, I'm thanking you for all your years of service to the Israelite community, and still continuing to do what you do, and still continuing to mentor us younger guys, because we're not as young as we used to be anymore, but us younger guys, and keeping us up to par with Torah, and keeping us sharp with you being sharp, and helping us to be the best that we could be. So I appreciate you for all that. I appreciate that.
Everybody have a good Shabbat. And hopefully, like I said, any mistakes been my own. Don't blame D.C.B. Sometimes I be going fast.
All right, Nasik.
Okay, Shalom.
Shalom.